Yo, 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 it's X. I need to make a mental note from the last podcast with Street Beef Fighter, Fair Play. I said, what's out production. It's now What's Out Media Group. Sorry. But right now we have episode 3 of RowingCast. This one is with Christine Cavallo. Christine, she has a lot of accolades. We can go through them. We'll definitely go through them. That's the whole point of this podcast. She's a Floridian rower. She's part of that Floridian rowing, culture. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about her time at Stanford. She did a lot of work there, and you did a lot of passing out, I heard, right?
Only once, I think. Oh, okay. Man.
All right. And if you don't know anything about Stanford lightweight rowing, the women, they kick ass at I.R.S. So shout out to them. And we'll talk about, she also went on to be a professional athlete. Right now, I think she's across the pond. So is that correct?
Yeah. Over on in the UK right now.
So you rowing for, which blue are you rowing for over there?
Dark blue. There is no other option.
Okay, fair enough. Christina as well. She was just in I believe it was a mixed quad. And what is brand new to the sport, not brand new, but it's definitely novel, definitely new, coastal rowing. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And yeah, I'm sorry for this long, introduction, but we got a pretty cool, guest for today. So Christine, how are you?
I appreciate that. That was a super kind introduction. I'm doing well. We have a time change that we're jumping back and forth between right now, I think. So catching you midday, 7 p.m. here. So I think the way it works is everyone is currently at a pub right now, and I'll probably just go to bed after this.
Fair enough. Well, yeah. So Christine, let's talk a little bit about Florida rowing. Where did you row?
I rowed at Orlando Area Rowing Society. I know there's a lot of places popping up, a lot of them in Oakland and Olympia, with the acronym O.A.R. or O.A.R.S. I'd like to think that we are the first. I think we were the first to have that acronym. The program's been around for close to 30 years now, but it's in Central Florida, big club program that just supports all of the schools in the immediate area.
Nice. So when did you start? Were you a middle school rower? Were you a high school rower? When did you get your start?
No, to spite myself, I started rowing. I did every other sport you could imagine. Started with gymnastics, got injured doing that, switched to soccer, track, and cross country at the same time. My poor mother was driving me between 4 different teams because I had a club and school soccer program.
Yeah.
So I was doing homework in the car, driving around. I was at a school that was 45 minutes away. And then I got injured in the 7th grade, which really crushed my dreams of going to play D1 soccer in college. I was gung-ho for the knee surgery that I was going to need. And my mom was like, absolutely not. We're not doing this. And the doctor's like, all right, so you can do nothing with lateral movement based on this injury, and you can do nothing with contact. So you can either swim or row. And at the time I had a lot of friends who were really good swimmers, and there was no way I was catching up. But I was aware of those limitations.
Right.
So I was like, I know literally no one rowing, so I might as well try this. And I got sucked in, and we're here 12 years later chatting.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about soccer. What aspects of soccer did you enjoy?
All of it. I mean, I love the team element. I think I didn't have anything else that I loved. I didn't have a depth of experiences. Gymnastics was very stressful to me. I didn't like the coach, and I had a very bad initial experience. I was totally fine when I got injured doing that. Soccer was pretty devastating though. And so when soccer had to go away, I leaned in pretty hard to track and field, which originally was just fitness for soccer, right, as was cross country. And so I was dead set on doing track and field when I got into high school. I switched schools going into high school. And in that summer of switching, I did a learn to row camp. And we were doing like 500-meter pieces at the end of the week-long camp. And I was, I was a lightweight 14-year-old going in the 130s for repeat 500 meters.
Okay.
And I just remember like the men on the varsity team were like, what the hell is going on? And I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. I want to play track and field. But sure, I'll do another Learn to Row camp just to stay in shape. And then I was like, sure, I'll come to the fall season just to stay in shape. And then eventually the coach was like, you understand, you can't leave. You understand this. Yeah. I was like, oh no.
That is crazy. That is nuts. So at 14, I don't know. For those of you that are watching, that means that you have some understanding of rowing. For a 14-year-old, obviously you had to be a lightweight still, even more than a lightweight at the age of 14. And you pulling 130s, that's pretty darn impressive. So did you even do a lot of erging? I guess that's a main question. Did you do a lot of erging in high school?
Yeah, we would erg year round because we never had to. So I think at least once a week we had some form of intensity or AT erg piece. I don't remember doing a ton of steady state on the erg. But we probably erged definitely Mondays because I hated Mondays. I remember that viscerally. Every Monday was erging for the women's team, and then probably like one other session a week. But because you have liquid water year round, like you don't have to do the erg season. So I stayed in touch with it, but also didn't have to. It was a weird balance. And sometimes I resented it because like we never had to be on the erg. Why are we here? But overall, I think it was probably a good balance to not constantly be on a static rowing machine for extended periods of time when your body's developing. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. And I mean, now that you're across the pond, you'll definitely have some more experience on the erg. So
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So let's talk about your development. So when was it like, okay, obviously they said, you're not going anywhere. You're staying on this darn team. How did it transition? How was it your freshman year, your sophomore year? How was it your underclassman year as high school?
Oh man. So I don't even know where to start with this. By the end of my first ever 2K was a 157. I don't know what that is. It's sub 750. And it was like a big deal to other people, but not to me, because I was like, well, I just did a 201 4K last week. So obviously I'm not going to go 201 on 2K. Where's the math, guys? By the end of my freshman year, I don't know how I did this. I'm trying to like remember who that person was. Because like I like look back on this person who was absolutely invincible, and I've definitely faltered since then. But like I went 722 when I was 14 years old and 133 pounds. And that is nuts to think about. And I question right now whether I could do that. Like obviously you can, because like once your body knows how to go that speed, I think something in your DNA just like kind of alters. It's like Spider-Man getting a radioactive bite, like something changes about you and you're able to go into that space again. But freshman year was nuts. I was pushed really heavily by my teammates. Sophomore year, I only dropped 4 seconds. So I like broke the 150 split barrier, and that took the whole year to do.
Right.
Junior year, I went 711. So again, like not a huge drop. And then senior year, I came back from the junior national team, got a lifting coach, put on like 5 pounds of muscle. And like on our random like preseason 2K, I went 703.
Jeez.
And my coach is like, what just happened? And like we looked at the times and she's like, how much did you weigh before that? And I was like, I don't know, like 137 pounds. And she was like, no. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's literally like 2 pounds. It's 2 pounds. Like I just have to not eat an extra bowl of cereal at breakfast. And then that's a world record. Do it, guys, calm down. And so the rest of the year ended up like I think gotten into Stanford the same week that I set that privately, right? Like you have like to set the 2K world record, you have to do it at an erg race.
Right.
And so this is just like the culmination of all of high school in one go. So we'll just run through it.
Yeah.
Go to like the local erg sprints, planning to set the 2K. I feel terrible. I'm probably just nervous, but like, I don't feel good going into it. And I was like, it doesn't have to happen today. Like all I have to do is qualify for Crash B, and then I get another chance to do it later. So like, there's nothing riding on today.
Right.
Do the 500 meter, because our coach has us do the 500, the 2K, and then some people are on the 4x500 relay team. So I did the 500 meter, basically a warm up, sit around, wait to do the 2K, do the 2K, break the world record. That was sick. That was tons of fun.
Right.
Felt terrible doing it, like was hallucinating afterward. And then like 20 minutes later, I had to go do the 4x500 meter relay, which was bleak. It was like super bleak. It was not great. Got certificates in the mail later than that. I had broken the 2K world record. And then I also got a certificate for the 500 meter world record, which I accidentally broke in the morning without knowing it.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
That's pretty lit. That's pretty legit.
Yeah. So both of those are still standing.
So what advice would you give to the youngsters, to the young junior, rowers? What advice would you give to them on the erg?
Do things that aren't rowing, first of all. So like, give yourself permission to move your body in ways that are not a rowing stroke, but specifically with like, because like any sort of like athleticism is going to pay off in the sport of rowing. I truly believe that. And the more you can keep that range of motion wide, the better you're going to be able to go into the sport of rowing. But more specifically, I think lifting was a huge game changer for me. And especially working with a coach who understands body movement, knowing how to move smartly and engage more muscles. The sooner you can incorporate that into your training, the better you're going to be for the rest of your life, both as an athlete, preventing injury, and just like whole body health.
Ladies and gentlemen, those of you listening, that's some great advice there. I'm probably one of the stiffest rowers that you'll know. Like I am really stiff. My movement is really rough. But yeah, when in terms of lifting, what are you like looking for in lifting? Like, are you looking for squats? What are you like targeting, I guess?
Yeah. So like, I think lower body is critical. I put on muscle pretty easily. So I try to steer away from heavy lifting upper body stuff. Especially because like I'm prone to rib injury. So if my upper body is too overdeveloped, then like the thing that yields are my bones, and that's never fun. So I think like pushing and pulling lower body exercises. So like a pulling lower body exercise would be like a hex bar deadlift, which allows you to have a pretty good center of gravity, and like lift the bar up. That's pulling. Pushing would be like back squat, or front squat. Front squat's a little bit better if you have the core stability. Back squat, you can cheat a little bit. So I would always recommend like, and I am not a professional strength coach, so like take all of this with a grain of salt, but like lifting with the bar in front of you is going to force you to have good form and do it smartly. You can lift more with your back, but that does not mean you're doing it correctly, nor that you should be lifting more. So like, I do recommend starting with a strength coach and building your fundamentals, building your ABCs and how to lift. And then once you have that toolkit, go forth, do what makes you happy, but it's worth learning the right way.
Nice. We'll speak a little bit about the rowing community in Florida. So were you one of the people that, competed in the sweep category and then the sculling category? Were you both, or how did that work out for you?
Big on sweeping. My program was all sweeping. And then my junior year, we convinced my coach to let us try a double, me and one of my really good friends on the team. So we got to double up in the double and the 8. And that was one of the most epic things. Like we had no idea how to scull, but we just went nuts. And in Florida, there's scholastic nationals and regional. Like there's so many scholastic teams. Like our state championship is a 1500 meter, and then our regionals are 2K. So like that is a brutal transition at the end of the season to add that extra 500 on.
Right.
But the states have sculling and sweepstakes. So I got to go to sculling states for the first time my junior year. And I think we won the double at like a 20 by like miles of open water. And then proceeded to get absolutely doored at the youth national championship. But we did pretty well in the state of Florida that year.
Solid. Here, I'm just going off of memory. So I have a lot of friends who rode in your area. Is there some team that banged on a drum or something, or made noise or something? I don't know. If you know anything about this, I'm just trying to like remember what I have off of that. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about at all? It's okay if you don't.
I could guess and say Lake Brantley did something like that.
Oh, dude, shout out Lake Brantley. I got teammates from there. Yeah, shout out.
As you're saying that, I'm just like viscerally remembering every time I've raced and heard a cowbell. And I can't identify it with things anymore, because there have been so many times when there's one notorious team with one parent who's so loud, like that never stops. That never goes away. I do not remember the specifics of the high school era right now. That's crazy though.
I remember when I was in high school at our Scholastic Midwest Championship, there was a guy who would always go there. He always had, what are they called? Bagpipes. He played at bagpipes for the whole regatta. It was pretty weird, but it was pretty cool. Now I like miss it though. Now I definitely.
Who do you think had better lung capacity? Every single one of the rowers or the guy with the bagpipes?
This guy. He was playing for hours. 4 hours.
God, that's nuts.
Let's see. What would you say is probably what's the most I won't say the worst experience, but like what's the biggest learning lesson you had in high school, and what was the most accomplished? What was the biggest accomplishment in high school?
Oh, that is tricky. There's so many ways to approach that question. The thing that I learned was that, I went not slow for my freshman and sophomore year, and I didn't get invites to camp because I was too short. And so I had to do some pretty ridiculous things to finally get invited. And then once I was invited, I was like, no, I'm not coming. I'm going to Canadian Henley instead. And like, I literally got a call from the junior national team coach, the woman who actually ended up coaching me and being a mentor for the last decade of my life. Shout out Cass Cunningham, based in Philly now. She called me and she was like, hey, idiot, come to selection camp. Don't go to Canada. Are you crazy? And I was like it didn't take much to get me to fold. I was like, fine. But like, I really thought I was dying on this sword of like, you don't want me, so I don't want you. And that would have been a huge mistake that let my ego get in the way. So I think the lesson that I learned was that you should just sink your teeth into whatever the fastest possible version of yourself can be, and don't let those external comments kind of dictate how you're able to develop as an athlete. But on the flip side of that, making the junior national team was like broke a lot of paradigms about what it meant to be a rower and be tall. And I also found that like, while you shouldn't listen to every single voice that comes in and tries to give you advice, like if you can find a mentor and someone who is in your corner, like that is, you only need like one person like that for your whole athletic career, maybe two. Like keep it simple, but find that person and like let them help you and listen to them. And like that mentorship is what got me to where I am today.
Solid. So did you have any leadership roles when you were in high school?
I was captain my senior year, yeah, of my high school team.
So what goals? Did you have any goals as a senior captain? Were you kind of let's get the team together, or were you kind of like clicky? That there's a whole bunch of different groups that the captain may take when they
Yeah,
get leadership.
true. And I've been on all of those teams. I was someone who like came in fast as a freshman, managed to piss everyone off by like saying, "Oh, I miss soccer so much." And they're like, "You asshole, like you're going fast. You beat all of us and you don't want to be here." And I was like, "Oh, I understand now how that's a terrible optic."
Right.
And so like I did a lot of like repenting over my freshman year to like get the seniors to like me and trust me again. And I think that instilled pretty early on this idea that I enjoy hierarchy. I enjoy the top-down structure of letting the seniors be the leaders. And so I did that in college as well. Like someone nominated me to run for captain as a junior. And I think I stood up and my whole speech was how you shouldn't vote for a junior to be captain, and like pulled myself from the election. So by the time I was a senior, like I think I had built a culture of like work hard, race hard, but also like you're going to load the entire trailer at the end of the day. Like I strapped every single boat on the trailer every year, whether I was captain or not. Like I liked the idea of always doing a little bit more. And I'd like to think that I led as a captain with that. I was a captain at my college as well. And if I could look back, like the only thing that I like look back on and regret and wish I could do differently was like make sure that I preserved within myself the bandwidth to be there for other people, because I was always kind of redlining. And there were times when I couldn't be as supportive as I wanted to be. Like I couldn't figure out how to keep enough of myself ready to be there when someone needed me.
Right.
And I'm learning how to do that as I go through life. I think a lot of us are. But like, though, if I have regrets, it's that I was not supportive for every person. And maybe that's like a crazy thing to assume that you can be ready
Right.
for everyone at every moment. But like, there are times when I feel like I dropped the ball for teammates, and those are the moments that stick with me, is like, oh, damn.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was captain my junior year and my senior year. But yeah, they put me in those type of situations. I was always hey, Xavier, so-and-so won't be able to race this weekend. Will you go talk to him? All right, so-and-so's getting cut. Will you sit with him on a bus? It's a 30-minute bus ride back home. Will you sit with him on the bus and talk to him? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll make sure that it's rough. So I understand where you're coming from, but I've had the exact opposite. And I'm like, I need a break from it, please. I need a break from it, please.
It says so much about like the empathy that you present if you're tapped for those roles. And I've had co-captains who were very empathetic like that, who are just amazing. And they literally got on to be like preschool teachers. Like it made sense where they went. And you're working with young kids now, like you're kind of built for that. And as long as you can like find it in a balance that you're also able to like restore yourself in the ways that you need to, like it's such a gift to have that be sort of your like predisposition or your like steady state.
Yeah, I respect that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, okay, so when did you know that you were going to Stanford?
I didn't want to go. Oh, I really didn't want to go. I went on my officials. Stanford was a very last minute official. I was about to fly to Bulgaria on the junior national team, like the coolest kid on the block, obviously. And I had all my officials lined up. Stanford wasn't responding to my emails. And I was finally like, hello, my name is Christine. I'm getting ready to fly to Bulgaria tomorrow. I am interested in communicating with you about an official. I sent you all of my paperwork. Hey. And the coach was like, oh yeah, no worries. We'll run your paperwork and like, we'll check it out. We'll see what's good. I'm like, oh my God. Like I grew up in Florida, obviously. My parents grew up doing work with a lot of people in California. And I remember my mom always saying like, oh, they're just so chill all the time. Like we have deadlines and they're just like, yeah, it'll get done. And it's the most maddening thing. And I was like, mom's crazy. And then that experience, I was like, mom is correct. I'm panicking. This is urgent.
Right.
And so they get back to me and they're finally like, yeah, it's like we have this official on this date for you. You're all booked. And I'm like, what if it didn't work? I mean, yeah, it works perfectly, but what if it didn't?
Right.
And so I was like stressed out, don't need to be stressed out, right?
Yeah.
Go on my officials. The junior national team trains at Princeton. I was in love with Princeton. I was looking at the open weight program with Lori Daphne. She is a woman that I would want to spend a lot of time with in life. Like just so much respect for her, the program, loved the school, loved everything. I remember being on my Stanford official, which was somehow the same weekend as the Princeton official, but it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. By the time I had done my Stanford official, I had bronchitis. I had pink eye in both eyes. I had ear infections in both ears. I don't remember the official. The only thing I remember is driving to practice at 5 a.m., which is ungodly. And the girl in front of me had a tattoo behind her ear of a rainbow peace sign. Only memory. And then I'm about to fly home and I'm chatting like with my dad in the airport. Stanford's like, all right, we need an answer. Like, not like a huge rush, like take your time, figure it out, talk to your family. Can you get back to us like 24 hours? I'm like, what? Other schools have literally given me a month and a half to make this decision because they were waiting for me to come here. And you're giving me 24 hours.
Now they're on a deadline.
Now they're on a deadline, right? They're like, well, yeah, like we need to like get all this stuff in because like the term has already started. I'm like, when was I supposed to do this? I don't understand where I fit into the equation. Call my dad and I was like, I think I want to go to Princeton. And my dad is like, my dad is from New Jersey attitude, New Jersey, everything, like goes to New York on the weekends kind of guy. And he's like, Christine, I'm from New Jersey. And like, I'm going to omit all the curse words, but he's like, do you think we live in Florida now? Do you think you can handle snow? Do you think you can handle seasons? It's going to look, sure, it's going to snow for one day. It's going to be great. It's going to melt for 6 months, Christine. You can't do that. You're my daughter. I've known you for 17 years. No shot. But sure, we could sell the house. We'll move to the street. We'll be fine. You can go to New Jersey. And I was like, okay, fine. So I accepted Stanford. And then literally for a year was probably the worst person you can imagine, just being like, yeah, I'm going to Stanford, but I wish I was going to Princeton. I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud on a podcast because like, it's far enough in the past for like, it's funny to me now.
Right.
I apologize to anyone who's getting their first ever impression of me through this dialogue. God, that's brutal. But once I got to Stanford and moved into my dorm and looked around and saw the palm trees, I was like, yeah, my dad's crazy, but he's also always correct.
New Jersey and Florida, they have some type of union. Most people I know in Florida are from New Jersey. It's weird.
Yeah. We don't need to unpack that here, but yeah.
Yeah, not at all. That's a whole nother podcast. I don't even know what you call that one. But okay, so originally you didn't want to go to Stanford, and then I guess you woke up and saw the palm trees, and you're like, maybe this is a good spot. So how was it? How was your freshman year? Let's take you back to freshman year, Christine. How were you?
Wow. Honestly, I don't remember a lot of college. Like it was just a blur of academics and athletics. I wish I remembered more of it. It was kind of like redlining the entire time because that school and a lot of like, if you're trying to be an elite athlete anywhere, there's going to be trade-offs between your academics, your athletics, and your social presence and bandwidth, and like going surfing on the weekends and skiing on the other weekends and I just didn't have that stuff. And so I was just like, hold on for dear life, do what you came here to do, which I felt like I both loved rowing, but also felt obligated to be the best person on the team, which like from an athletic standpoint, like
Right.
obviously you need like every single person on the team to make the team go. But I felt that my role had to be like a certain number of splits faster than the next person at all times, or I was not worthy of being at that school.
Even during the rest, were you one of those people that rows are during the rest? I compete during the rest.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
Free speed. I didn't do more training. So I didn't do additional sessions, like not like crazy mileage.
Right.
I know that I am like an athlete who thrives on intensity, but a coach once told me to be on the prowl rather than like this like limp noodle kind of paddling between pieces. And so
Right.
that mentality always stuck with me. Like if you're rowing, if you're taking strokes in a boat, like stay hungry. So yeah, I was that person a little bit.
So you redlined each year. What year would you say was your favorite? Even though it's a blur, what would you say was your
Senior
favorite
year.
year? Why is
Senior
that?
year. Because freshman year I passed out, which you know about, and we can talk about if we need to.
We can definitely talk.
Sophomore and junior year, my motto was literally for sophomore year, just 100%. So it was like, look, if you try and do more, see what happens. Don't do that again. Like that was ridiculous. Just survive to the end of the piece, just 100%. And then I think similar mentality my junior year, and then senior year, I was all ready to just like pack it up. I called it my year-long retirement party. And like every single race was supposed to be like just kind of nostalgic, like be present, be in the moment, have fun. Like this is the last year you're going to be rowing for your entire life because you're totally going to retire the second the IRA is over. And I had a new coach. I had a woman named Kate Burtko who just literally got out of the boat in Rio from the lightweight women's double and applied to be our coach. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go. This is amazing.
Right.
What I didn't realize was that she would also loosen all the screws in my brain and convince me to keep rowing now. So I went through that journey my senior year. I stopped limiting myself. She gave me a lot of situations to like choose to be better, but only if I personally opted in. And I found myself opting in every single time where I was like, okay, like in retrospect, I could see like I was hungry for something, but didn't know what. At the time, I was just like going through the motions and these things just kept happening. But for the IRA, my senior year, it was just like a tough year from a physical standpoint, like just a brutal, hard year.
Right.
And then we get to the IRA and I just remember being there. Like I've never been fitter. There's no chance we're losing because the amount of times that I've puked in our erg room for this moment. No, I'm willing to die all over again. I'm willing to die all over again. And the whole race was just like up by so much so quickly that I just got to like, I remember thinking at 500 meters in, I was like, hang out, enjoy your last 1500 meters of rowing. Just don't pass out again.
Great. Let's go back all the way back to that. So how did that happen?
Right. So we've done some stress tests on everything and nothing is wrong, probably. They also like, there's no way you can get me to do a stress test in a doctor's room that's going to simulate a national championship or a world championship or a 2K world record. Like those are the times when I've either passed out in the race or immediately after for like half an hour. Mm-hmm. Like there's just no way for me to demonstrate to you what is causing it. In 2014, I think I was like, one, I'm like transcending my body. Like there's something disconnected in my brain as to where my ethereal being on this earth is meant to exist and where I think it should exist. Right. And when those wires get crossed, I don't make it to the finish line. It's probably the reason I'm able to set a world record, the reason I was able to do that. but also like it's what gets me to get energized by the boat that I'm in and want to do everything I can to move this thing that is larger than me spiritually and physically, and not be able to do that. And so I think basically I just started sprinting at 7:50 to go, and I had not that many meters in me.
Right.
And so it's probably just like an oxygen deprivation thing. But I remember all my limbs like stiffening up, going straight, couldn't bend them, all the tendons like locked up.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty brutal photos that Road 2K has been very kind to remove from the internet, but not before I save them for myself.
Right.
Of me like passed out in the boat, laying down, like getting knocked in the head every stroke by 6 feet behind me.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. But that was the last time I was in Stern 4.
So where were you in the boat after that? After Stern 4?
3-seat or 4-seat, depending on who was stroking.
Let's go.
Yeah.
3-seat for the win.
I loved it. Come on, you look over, like I knew everyone. We'd been racing for 4 years. Like, what does it say if I'm sitting in 3-seat? I see the people who know me personally, and like what's going through their head, like what kind of freshman did they recruit if she's if she's in 3-seat?
Now, it sounds like you were redlining life there. So that's pretty badass. You know, you're sticking to your guns no matter what. So what advice would you give to someone that is going into collegiate rowing, to another level of rowing? What advice would you give to them?
Wow, I have so much advice, and also I don't want to give any, because like you should definitely trust that it is your process.
Right.
I will say the thing that made me most excited to keep rowing was the people I was meeting and the person I was becoming. And when I kind of lost my way, it was because I didn't have those things that I valued in the crosshairs and constantly prioritized. I started listening to other people. Like, this is where I got too many mentors and too many people trying to give me advice. And it wasn't like, hey, you're too short anymore, but it was, hey, like, you're bad at this and I can make you better. And I just like fed off of it. I was like, absolutely, I want to get better. What can I do? That feedback loop got really negative, and I got pretty self-deprecating. And it was always this like, it was always this loop of like, oh, I'm not good. I'm good on the erg, but not on the water. Like, don't worry. Like, very self-deprecating, allowing myself to be negative, never celebrating the wins. Like, I probably took stoicism to like way too far of a degree, and just like never giving myself the upside of what I was doing. I understand that I'm a person who also feeds on community and feeds on teams, and a lot of my training was solo, and I undervalued how much that meant to me as an athlete. So I think all I can say is like, trust the environment you're in, trust what environment you should be in, and like, don't be afraid to advocate for those things. You're going to learn so many things through trial and error, but like one day you're going to wake up and be the expert who's like the old guard and able to help other people. But like, no one should ever assume that you're there right away. So like, ask questions and advocate for yourself, and like be willing to try new things and push yourself, but also like make sure you have the right anchor points to keep your North Star where your North Star should be, and like find purpose in the journey, and just make sure that you're serving those things throughout it.
Solid advice. Hey, you say you're going to give me advice. That's some pretty solid advice there. Let's talk more about leadership. How is your leadership journey at Stanford? You got a lot more factors, I feel like, in comparison to being in high school.
I mean, I showed up as a freshman. I remember like similarly, they like, my sense of humor has evolved over the course of my life, but I definitely like, I remember they like saw my like social media, and they're like, we thought you were going to be the worst, and you're totally not, but like, we thought you were going to suck. And I was like, wait, what? So like, similar to freshman year of high school, I was like, oh no, like now I have to spend the entire year like earning back all of their trust. And it wasn't hard to like, the team was amazing and like very supportive and like just a very positive space. and like after I passed out my freshman year, they were also very forgiving. And the silver lining was that there were no seniors in the boat. So I didn't actively destroy someone's fourth and final consecutive national championship. And they destroyed people's 3-time consecutive national championships.
No big deal. No big deal.
No big deal. No big deal. And so like similarly, I loved like being the sophomore who got fired up about the seniors and helped unify the energy around a common voice, because I thought that was a really important thing to be doing. Like you can always poke holes in anything, but the fastest thing you're going to be able to do is all together. And so while it's not perfect, like undermining it is also very much not productive. So I tried to be that person. Junior year, I studied abroad. So I came back from study abroad, like not wanting to like jump back in, like I'm the hottest shit and like able to like, you know, like lead. Like I needed to figure my own life out, get back into Stanford after being in Florence, like having the time of my life. Like, yeah, I needed to like zone back in, realize that I was approaching the second half, like felt like rapidly approaching the end of my college career. And I had yet to secure a job for post-college, which like junior winter, that was already like existential in the level of dread that I was feeling.
Right.
And so that was actually the time when I was on the team and I felt like I was dropping the ball for my teammates more than anything else. It was like me being very self-interested, not realizing that other teammates, particularly like the freshman class, were going through it. Like they were having a hard time. And I was not receptive to that because I didn't know them in the fall. And then like didn't know how to like catch myself up to them in the winter and spring. So my senior year was motivated pretty strongly by knowing that it happened. By the end of my junior year, in the summer of my junior year, I like started to like come up for air, realize where I was not supportive for my teammates because I had just my own head down into what I was doing. And so my senior year was motivated to be a better version of myself for the freshman class, making sure they could get their feet on the ground in ways that I had failed to do for the class before them.
Yeah, I had to learn a lesson just like that in high school. We were not incorporating the freshmen when we were seniors. We were cliquey, like we'd hang out by class and just hang around, do stuff. Anyways, me and my captain, we were like, all right, well, so we gotta leave some type of legacy here. We're just gonna sit where the freshmen sit on a bus. So we sat in the front of the bus and hung out with these freshmen for the entire year. The entire year. I felt like, I was losing brain cells. Still feel like I'm losing brain cells. They're still one of the like some of my best friends right now, but our whole goal was like, hey, we want them to feel comfortable in this, in this sport, find their own groove in it, and hopefully, they stick through it. And even though there's one kid that always says, I hate rowing. You go to his house, he's got his medals, he's got his pictures with his buddies. And that's really what we were looking for. So I'm glad it worked out in the long run. But yeah, it is hard to incorporate, especially if you don't have time with certain people. It's just like, that's a pretty challenging thing. And I had to do the same thing in college, but in college it's a little different. And but yeah, I love to hear that. Let's talk about studying.
Let's talk about this real quick.
Sorry.
The freshmen, they were when you were in high school? This was the freshman class when you were in high school?
Yeah.
How was the rest of their high school for them?
For the rest of their high school, most of them rowed for all 4 years. One got kicked out, but he got kicked off the team for I give him his props. And he's like, no, I just did it because I didn't want to, I just got kicked off the team. And he's like, I just didn't want to be on the team anymore. He really took a bullet for the whole team. The whole team would have suffered for his actions. And some of them, they row in clubs right now. And nothing like too far into it, but rowing did shape them as individuals. So
yeah, and I think having the mentorship, like whether you knew you were providing it or not, like that, it's just a meaningful example at a pretty significant time in people's lives to be able to be that. So that's huge.
I previously mentioned this one kid, he got cut from the team and I had to sit with him for 30 minutes.
Right.
He ended up becoming a captain of the team not the next year, but later on in his high school career, he became a captain. I think right now he goes to Ohio State, but he's a senior at Ohio State and he still rows. So yeah, I mean, you got some weird stories like that. And
yeah, where in that timeline did he get cut?
so he got cut his freshman year. So, okay, I'll tell his whole story and he'll know who he is. His fall season of freshman year, he played backyard football, broke his leg. And then I got to give it to him. He spent a lot of time and effort coming back, got back on the erg. And then I'm from Cleveland. So we spent a long time on the erg, like till mid-March almost. And he got on the erg and he was like actually improved and he's one of the better guys. But like my coach just didn't have a place to put him. So my coach goes, yeah, me and my co-captain Peter, yeah, Xavier, Peter, I gotta let him go today. Xavier, you have to be with me when I let him know. Me? Why not Peter? He's like, look at Peter. Peter's not gonna do anything about this. So then he sends Peter on, and Peter's like, all right, see you later, X. Good luck with that. And I'm like, okay. And he tells the kid, and the kid, he couldn't even say like, it was like a breakup. He couldn't even say like the first two words. He started crying. I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I was like, all right, dude. I was like, come on, man. I was like, it's all right. Crew will still be here. Like, it's not the end. If you want to come back next year, come back next year. If you want to come to a rowing camp over summer, I'll be there. Come row. Like, it's not a big deal. His name was Braden. And I was like, come on, man. So he was on the bus. He sat in the front of the bus for 30 minutes. And it was just like me and him just talking, or him just like, do you know what I like went through to come back? And I'm like, yeah, man, I understand. I totally understand. It's all good, bro. And yeah, dude, he came back the next year. He actually did fairly well. Like he came back and was like, he was pretty amped. And he got the row as a novice. So it worked out for him.
He rowed as a novice the following year because I guess he hadn't raced. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's sick. 2 takeaways. One, I didn't realize that when you told me that story, like in a less detailed version, that you were in high school when this was happening. So yeah, like the social contract that you're fulfilling with your coach, like supporting that role, that's nuts. That's amazing that you're capable of doing that. Like the emotional intelligence it takes to do that. Huge. Second thought is like the same way that I was like devastated by my knee injury when I was in 7th grade, 8th grade. Like it was a year-long process. Like this kid getting cut as a freshman, like how many moments in time like feel like an absolute cliff because of when they happen in our lives. But it's all about like, it's just like, I've had enough of those moments to know now that when I'm in that low, when I'm being told no, like it is immediate jet fuel. Like it puts something in my crosshairs to be able to burn it down the next time I have the opportunity. But like, it has become such a motivator for me to have those moments that I actually like have at times started craving them. Like, please just someone tell me no. So like, just reject me. Like, don't let me like say no, say I can't do this, say I can't do that. Like, that's why I applied to Oxford and then I got in. So now I'm here, but I really thought I wasn't going to get in.
Yeah. That's solid. And yeah, I'm all about the comeback. My team, when I started, that was our first full year of rowing. And then Jacksonville, when I was on their team, they were just rebuilding because they had a whole bunch of drama. So I'm all about the comeback. I'm all about the underdog and finding a way, figuring out a way. So yeah. But yeah, and then my senior year, I got into this whole like TikTok thing, and look, I don't want to be stuck in that anymore. I mean, I had to like relate with the freshmen. I felt like an old man. I really felt like a grandpa. I was like, oh yeah, what's going on, kids? What are we up to? And they're like, get away from me. I'm like, okay, well, I'm your teammate. You can come by. And in college, I always had this freaking open door policy. Anybody could enter my dorm or my apartment at any time. Any teammate that is, and just come and have a conversation. It's pretty weird.
You and I are cut from very different cloths. And I respect you for that. But I couldn't even open my own door some days. Man, that is nuts. That's amazing. Like, that's something I wish I had the bandwidth for.
Yeah,
And I just don't know how.
that's just what I have. Like, I don't know. It's a gift. I just like
Yeah.
I like engaging with others and finding what their motives are. Like, okay, well, if you why are you here? Why are you rowing? That's one of the most important questions I would always ask a teammate or something like that. Oh, you're rowing for this? Okay, cool.
What's
Now
your answer to that? What's your answer to that?
for me,
Why are you rowing?
dude, I'm rowing
Why
for
did you row?
my grandfather. My grandfather, he funded my first season of rowing, and he told me, "Look, Xavier, you never stay committed to any sport. Stay committed to this one." And he passed my junior year, and my junior year when he passed, we got our first bid to nationals, Scholastic Nationals. I know it was different, but that same year I was able to do that. So yeah, and I still row because I also enjoy like my teammates. No matter like even now as a coach, like I love the athletes. I'm like, oh yeah, what are you up to today, man? Oh, okay, okay. Well, I better see you. I better see you working your ass off, in the water. Just giving people crap. And I'm a mixture of like I lead by example, but then I'm like the goofiest person in the room. But then I can be like super intense, and I'm super intense like during race day or something like I have a mixture of strategies, I guess. I call them strategies, but it really is just my personality, man.
That's fantastic. And that's why you're going to be an absolutely savage coach.
Yeah, I think so. So why do you row? But yeah, I row for my grandfather. That's the reason
why. I row because it is it is my opportunity to go deeper into one specific thing than most people ever get a chance to do in their lives. And it could have been a lot of different ways that happened. It could have been a different sport. It could have been an academic discipline. Maybe I will still do that in an academic discipline, but like getting that rep in and seeing how far I can go in one singular thing, like that is a privilege that has blown past any sort of emotional range that I would have experienced had I not chosen to go this far. Even like the D1 athletics in college pushed me pretty far to a range, but like whenever I have the option to take another step, like at first I couldn't like really put a finger on why I was doing it, but now I just see like I've been to the edge of what I am capable of. And the trippiest thing my senior year coach told me when I was like pretty freaked out, ready to retire, not going to keep rowing, didn't like cited my freshman year passing out as a reason why I shouldn't be going for a 6K PR, why I shouldn't be like trying to stunt my senior year and do all these crazy things and continue on to the U23 national team. It's like, look, this happened. I want to like stay within my boundaries. And she was like, Christine, sometimes we have to fall off the edge to know where it is. And I was simultaneously like, shit, oh God, like that's terrifying, but also she's not wrong. And so like, I haven't always kept that clear, but that has been like when I'm able to view that statement with clarity, I know how valuable it is to just go into things without entitlement, without this idea that you should be doing X, Y, or Z, just like go in freely and see what you're capable of. That freedom to pursue and fail and maybe succeed, that balance is beautiful. And you only get one life. So I like chasing it, tasting that, and then learning how to apply it to the rest of my life also. So
yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to do. I want to do exact same way that I was, going about it in rowing. Cause I love the person rowing has made me. I just want to I want to cut and paste that to the rest of life. Like that's what I'm looking forward to. But you know how I know that I'm like too in depth with rowing, or that I've been not too, I've been in rowing for a long time. Have you ever been in an outing and then you meet a rower and then you guys are talking rowing and it's like you guys are talking another language? Like anybody around that doesn't know anything about rowing, they're just looking at you guys like, what's going on here? And you're like, you're just talking about rowing, or you're talking about, the latest practice, or how'd your piece go, or something like that. Just a whole nother language. I feel the same way. And when it comes to, I played the clarinet for 8 years. So I feel the same way about that as well.
Okay,
But,
that is sick. All of my conversations for the last several years have been exclusively rowing. So what you're talking about, like if someone tried to hold a conversation with me outside of the scope of rowing,
yeah.
I was gone. I was done. Like those brain cells had atrophied. And that was terrifying to me. But also I didn't have the bandwidth to have literally any other conversation until probably after Olympic trials this past spring.
Yeah.
And then finally, like the world started opening up again. I was out of this like bleak masochism. I was allowed to like other things. I gave like, no one was telling me I couldn't, but like I was telling me I couldn't, or like, yeah, it was all within myself that these weird fake rules had been written.
Right.
But like to be able to engage with people on like, even just like simple thoughts, it's just nice to let them come back into my brain. Because yeah, everything was just rowing in weird obsessive code, but like beyond ridiculous.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about, so how was the transition after undergrad?
I went out for the U23 team, thought I wasn't going to make it, made it.
Where was that?
That was also in Plovdiv, Bulgaria.
Wow. Okay.
So I did another junior team and another U23 team. And then this was my fourth team total back to Plovdiv. Because I was like, last shot, gotta go.
Right.
Oh, it's in Bulgaria again. Okay, sick. All right, well, whatever. Last chance I'll ever get to row. And then the following year, long story short, I end up continuing to train solo while doing a graduate degree at Stanford. Okay. And then dropped out of said graduate degree to proceed to make my first ever senior national team, which was also in Plovdiv, Bulgaria. So now I have 5 national teams under my belt. 3 of them are in the lovely city of Plovdiv.
Interesting. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I mean, hey, maybe the next. Sorry. How? That's interesting. Bulgaria. Shout out Bulgaria, right?
Shout out Bulgaria.
I forgot to ask. How was your time abroad?
Oh, studying abroad?
Yeah.
Mental. I did a summer in South Africa, which is their winter.
Yeah.
And then immediately to this like Rocky Mountain geology and paleoclimate class that I was a TA for.
Yeah.
And then directly into Florence. So I was abroad for 8 months total. I can't believe that it happened. Like I would have never traded it. Maybe I should have gotten an internship. Maybe I should have rowed for that summer. Like, but I wouldn't have traded that. So I don't know when I would have fit those things in. It was awesome. Right. I highly recommend if anyone gets the chance to travel, do so. Like take the study abroad, see if you can do a summer internship abroad, like see if you can just like figure out a way to get it into your schedule. I also think that having those breaks within my rowing career is why I was able to keep going. Like I was not someone who could train. I don't train every single day of the year. I'm not the person who skips a day and then panics. Like I need time away because I come back stronger.
Right. So what was a learning lesson that you learned while abroad?
It was different in different countries.
Yeah.
In South Africa, I learned that other countries, South Africa specifically, is able to talk about race and the tensions there in ways that the United States, at least in 2015, was not doing. So the conversations were very candid and very open, and anyone and everyone would talk about them, but things were not getting done. So like they had reparations at the end of apartheid in 1994, 1995. Right. And all those did was like rip the Band-Aids off the wounds and cut them open. Yeah. And then not put any antiseptic on them, like not do any sort of like rebuilding, like redistribution of wealth, redistribution of land. So like, yeah, we've talked about our feelings, but like, well, we're not going to prescribe any medicine to make it better. And so the country is just like has this open dialogue about it without actually having implemented the policies that make society equal. Coming back to the United States, I felt like I was able to talk about those issues more candidly. And if anything, like I was worried that the way that I was able to speak about them would come across as like too abrasive for American culture at that time.
Right.
I think since then, like since last summer, we've moved hugely in the direction of at least like having candid conversations about this stuff. Like in rowing specifically, like it's taken way too long, but we've hit inflection points. We've had like just like really key icons in the sport have the platform, and they were like, R.S was ready to go. Like the movie was already done. He was telling his story and the moment was there and he met it. You have like Akil Abdullah, who like was already positioned working with Hydro, where I worked for a bit, had already been to the Olympics, had already been the first ever men's single sculler to win the Diamond Sculls. I forget his exact qualifications there, but he won the Diamond Sculls at Henley. Like these people existed and like were just ready for the moment. So I'm excited to see how rowing continues to evolve for all of that. That's a huge tangent from what I learned in South Africa, which is also that their national sandwich is a bread roll with French fries on it, because they also have obesity problems there, and also a beautiful country. And I loved it there. Florence, I learned that if you make eye contact with a man while you're walking in the street, it is very suggestive and you should be careful, which is the opposite of South Africa, which is that you should make eye contact because it means that you're taking up space. And like the cultural differences between each place is hugely different. Huge tangent. Sorry for that.
No, that's fine.
Maybe I answered it, but
I'm curious. Yeah. So no, thank you. So okay, so you had that 1 year of training by yourself, then you dropped the graduate program. So then where does that take you after that 1 year of just training by yourself? Where are you there?
Oh my God. We have to save the rest of your evening. I could go on forever. I moved to Boston and then pretty much trained consistently out of Boston, Miami, back to Boston, to Austin, Texas, to Florida. Pandemic hit, move out of Boston.
Is this a Hydro thing?
That relocation was Hydro, and then Austin, Texas Miami was Hydro, Austin, Texas was Olympic selection.
Okay.
Back to Florida was COVID, and then cut and ran from all of that and went to Vermont in September of 2020 to try and get my legs under me and go for this extra bonus year.
Heck yeah. Okay. I will put this out there. I was almost a Hydro athlete after the pandemic.
No way.
Yeah. Shout out to Kevin Hart, man. Kevin Hart. Later on one day you owe me. But anyways, I was almost a Hydro athlete, so I was interested in Boston, Miami thing. So I was like, okay. Sounds familiar. So when you were in Vermont, let's talk a little bit about that. What were you doing there?
There's a training center there called Craftsbury, which is, oh my God, it's like a fairy tale. I don't think I would have been able to go there straight out of college. I'm glad I didn't, because I learned a lot of things on the fly the hard way. So by the time I got up there, I did not take for granted the free housing, the free coaching, the resources, the way that Steve Welbley, the coach, will bend over backwards to support his athletes. It felt so nice to have someone in your corner advocating for you. It felt so great to have a team again. Like I knew these things were just like whatever I had been doing was not correct for me, but I didn't have the confidence to ever cut and run during 2018 to fall of 2020 to like actually hit reset myself. And so COVID was serendipitous in addition to being everything that it is, which is like a huge tragedy. It did give me a reset point. And the start of the pandemic was actually more social and more connected and more outgoing than I had been for years prior. So it was a bit of a paradox. But it gave me a chance to like step back, reset, go in on my own terms. And so Vermont was like this cute little haven in the middle of the woods, very cold. We're working on that. We'll build up a tolerance, but the people and the environment is great.
Nice. So you did have a training plan with this, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
In Vermont, yes.
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah. And I've known Craftsberry. Yeah, every time I hear about it, it sounds like they are the rowing scholars of the rowing world. So especially when it comes to sculling, I believe. But I'm not sure.
No, they're pretty sharp. They're pretty sharp up there.
So Christina, I will tell you how I came up with you, how I found you. Okay, found you on Instagram because you would ask these crazy questions, and people would send them in my group chat. And then I would answer, or I would put out a few, responses and stuff like that. So I was like, I need a female rower. I gotta get more females in my podcast. So I was like, I gotta invite her. So let's talk about what's going on so far. Sorry, we could talk about this. What is it called? Weird Question Wednesday or something like that. Whatever it's called.
Weird Question Wednesday.
Yeah.
So that was a thing when I had too much brain power and nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
So I did that for like 2 years. It started as like literally I was in Slovenia for a training camp and so bored that I would just Google like the etymology or like the history of the origin of the word coffee.
Yeah.
And then just like blast people's Instagram stories with like, here's all the things that I Wikipedia searched. And like, also like it got pretty elaborate where I was like, sorry.
You're fine.
It got pretty elaborate where I was like, there were times when I was like looking at scientific articles of like variations of milk and the protein composition of like different nut-based milks and different animal-based milks, right? So like eventually I got to a point where I was like joking and I was like, what's the worst piece of athletic equipment and why is it the Versa Climber? Sparked a huge debate, turned into a bracket, ended up doing like Concept 2 erg versus the Versa Climber in the final. I forget who won. That's not important. What is important is that it then birthed this month-long cycle. Like each month we would have a bracket for a different theme and people would write in themes and then we would like brainstorm what the things are. So like different sandwiches, different holiday cocktails, like all these crazy things. And it just got more and more and more and more intense until we had like a 64 bracket of Disney movie soundtracks.
Okay.
And like that was probably the peak.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I'm like, this is not fun, but like my mental health is definitely not in a good place. And this is not supposed to be the burden that it currently is.
Right.
So
right.
I just like kind of ghosted on it one week. There were people who would call me on Wednesdays and be like, where is it? And I was like, oh God, you're right. But like, it took hours. It took me hours to the point where like on like Monday, Tuesday, I would start doing hours worth of building slides so that I could just post them on Wednesday.
Yeah.
No, like if I got paid for that, I would not need the 3 other jobs that I currently have.
Yeah, no, you were definitely putting in a lot of effort in there. I gotta admit, definitely built somewhat of a community, which is pretty cool. So don't ever forget that you did something like that. And but that's where I found you. So yeah, it's pretty funny. Let's talk about some coastal rowing. I've never heard of coastal rowing.
Yeah, I barely heard of it.
So how did you get into this?
Yeah, someone called me and they're like, hey, like kind of funny, but also very serious question for you. And I was like, I have no idea where this is going. This guy named John Olbreys, who we like knew each other also over Instagram presence, and then finally met in person at Olympic trials in February of 2021.
Yeah.
Sends me an Instagram DM. Hey, very funny, very silly request, but very serious. I was like, well, sure, shoot, what is it? He's like, can I call you? I was like, oh God, like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, all right, so there's this thing. It's called beach sprints. We have a mixed quad. We need a fourth warm body who is female. No one else wants to do it. Are you in? It's like, yeah, absolutely. And then I hung up and I was like, was that the wrong answer? Turns out it was absolutely not the wrong answer. It was
so did you have fun? It was fun.
Oh my God. Oh my God. The second time I was in a coastal boat was US trials. And then we won because like the way it works is like if you're on the right side of the wave at the right time, there's nothing the other boat can do. Like they have to come up and over a wave and you're surfing on the other side of it. Like you're just physically unable to cover that distance. And so like we won and it was nuts. And then I was like, okay, but like I'm gonna like go to like real worlds is what I called it at the time. Now I know better. It's flat water worlds and coastal worlds. And it's like that's how we're gonna differentiate it. But I was like trying to do the lightweight double with my partner at Craftsbury. We were going fast. We were stoked, like ready to go to Shanghai. And then Shanghai gets canceled. I was like, okay, great. Okay, so coastal worlds is back on the table, like these beach sprints. And then the following weekend is a distance race. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm not doing it, I guess. Like, here we go. Trying to figure out how I'm going to do the summer because I also know that I'm going to Oxford in the fall. So rather than me staying in the United States and training until October 24th, when the World Championships are set to be, like kind of a gray area about when I'm going to head over to Europe. And then in early August, I like out of nowhere, still no idea how I caught it, got COVID. And like that freaked me out. And I was like, I can't travel. I can't do anything. Like, no, blah, blah, blah. This is ridiculous. I'm canceling everything. I don't know what state my heart's going to be in. And my doctor was like, you're dramatic. Do not cancel Portugal. Don't be an idiot. And I was like, is that formal medical advice? All right. We'll sit on it for a minute.
Run with it.
Right. So I ended up not doing the Coastal World Championships. That's a distance 6K the second weekend. But I went to beach sprints. We got a bronze, which is also nuts.
That's
like,
pretty cool.
It's so cool. I don't have a bronze. This is my first ever bronze. It's a real world championship medal. Like it is legit as all hell. It's so cool. And like everyone there's just having a blast. Like there's no egos, like, because anyone could get smoked by a wave at any given moment. Like, no, like everyone's just having so much fun. It was cool. It was really cool.
So you're riding high off that wave and then into the UK, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how is it so far? This would be like the last part of the podcast, but how is it so?
It's amazing. Like I've never felt so aligned with what I'm doing academically. I've always felt like I was kind of shape-shifting, and like what I would always say was that the job I want doesn't exist yet. And I think that's true. Like I think the way in which climate is being discussed, climate change.
Wait. Sorry.
Problems. Yeah.
We should definitely preface this. What did you study in college?
Okay.
And then what are you studying now? I know it's a newer program.
Right. Okay. Undergrad, I did international relations. I minored in geology. I studied environmental communications as a master's degree, which I then dropped out of. But essentially, I was looking at how violence in geopolitics and like international spaces maps against rising temperatures and resource scarcity. So like we run out of water, who goes to war? That's what I was interested in, but never really got as deep as I wanted to in it. Because I was also like had to run off and do this rowing thing. And I never found a program that specifically did it. This program is in its first year. It's called Sustainability, Enterprise, and the Environment. Over the last few years while I was rowing, I was working at a think tank that does international security risks linked to climate. So I did like how biodiversity loss is a huge economic burden that could cause countries to go to war. And a ton of other like ecological factors, which are not technically climate. They're a parallel thing entirely, and way under-researched. I show up here, like, first of all, didn't think I was going to get into the program, got into the program. Now that I'm in it, like, I'm like finding myself like reading 200, 300 pages for one class and not fatiguing. Could not, like, I don't know when I'm going to have time to sleep because I can't stop reading and working and like being so fired up about what I'm doing academically. And like, it made me realize how much I wasn't giving myself permission to, or like, I just didn't find it before.
Right.
And so it feels so good to have it now and feel it now and like be able to be in this space and doing that. Like, it's a huge privilege. I'm just like waking up every day, like geeked, even if it's pouring rain and I didn't have a rain jacket when I moved here.
Is that where the cough came from? No,
Yeah, no, yeah, it definitely is. It for sure is. I like fully caught the flu like 4 days into getting here.
Let's see. That's very interesting. Right now, you get the red line, academically. You get the red line on a whole different side. What are your goals? Let's say, what are your goals academically? What are your goals? What are some life goals? What are some rowing goals? Are you planning on going for this? There's this little race that happens usually with this, this tiny little race. I think it's fairly new, but yeah, are you going for the boat race? What are you looking for?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like the boat race has also been one of my dreams. So it's very convenient to have that line up here. That was honestly from a distance what I was so excited about was to be able to study and do the boat race. And now like the academic side is so much more than I could have ever imagined. So like, that's just like this incredible bonus for me personally, even though that was supposed to be the goal the whole time. Right.
Right.
The boat race, absolutely, like relearning how to sweep row is mental, but it's fantastic. From an academic perspective, I think like I'm going to go directly to every single weak spot that I have, which is mostly like data and analytics. Like I'm pretty good at the intersectional stuff, knock on wood, I can always be better, but like I'm going to put a big emphasis on learning the things that I don't know yet that like I can just harvest from an academic standpoint. And after this program, a lot of people will go straight into the private sector. Like that's the purpose of this course is to design net zero economic models to rapidly shift the global economy.
Right.
So a lot of people are going to be tapped to go straight into like high level business. I still don't know if I'm even going to entertain that and like maybe get communication with those businesses while I'm a student, but then training for 2024, like that's still on the table. Like I'm not someone who's good at like the long-term horizons of these things, but like I'm fired up to make that happen as long as I can stay healthy and pursue it with the balance that is important to me and do it on my own terms. So that is sort of what I'm looking at for post program.
So you're still developing yourself as a rower, but you are developing yourself outside of rowing. What advice would you give to someone that might feel like they're drained from rowing? Maybe they've only rowed 5 years, 4 years or something like that, and they feel like they're drained. But what advice would you give to someone, on that end? On not being drained?
I think it's okay to take a break. That philosophy doesn't align with what everyone would tell you. And I didn't make the Olympics, so you can take it with a grain of salt, whether you fully buy into what I'm saying. But I think there's so many ways to keep physically progressing. And if you're showing up to practice and just like going through the motions and it's not what you believe yourself to be capable of, like taking a step back to just bike for a while or like get really good at lifting and like let the cardio take a back seat to building strength, because those systems normally compete with each other. Like giving yourself an extended period of time to say like, my priority is going to be on increasing my mobility, increasing flexibility, increasing body awareness. And then I can go back into the rowings. Like, don't be afraid to rebuild certain parts of the rig as like a distraction from this big picture. Oh, I have to be rowing sport specific all the time. Because I think like after Olympic trials was probably the worst I ever moved in the weight room. So like getting back into the weight room after having cut weight and not had a gym at my disposal, like I lifted for a month straight and like the first week was hideous. hideous. Like I couldn't move my body correctly. And I was like, yeah, like I needed to be better in touch with that through my whole journey. But like sports specific is good when you're doing the sport specifically. Right. And like for everything else, like building resilience through breath is really important.
What advice would you give to someone in any predicament? What are your last comments, your last thoughts? What advice do you want to give to people? And got any extra things you want to, anything you want to promote, anything?
I would say follow me on Instagram, but I'm not doing Weird Question Wednesday anymore. So there's not really any reason to show up. I think if I've learned anything over the last like year or two, it's that you have a lot of control over what matters to you and you get to choose what those things are. And so like step one, like trust that you have agency there. You get to choose what matters to you. It's your life. It's your journey on this earth. You get to value those things. Two, once you choose them, don't look at someone else's yardstick and like grass is greener it, because it's not fun and it's not fulfilling. And like trying to translate between that gap is like the relativity game is not fun. And it's so easy to do when we're around other people and what they're presenting on social media. So yeah, like don't just like, let's all just delete Instagram, right? Like ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Like
I'm ready if you're ready.
Cool, I will.
Well, Christine, the Redliner Cavallo, I appreciate your time. Thanks for, spending an hour and some change with me. I think this was a pretty solid podcast. It was one of my favorite podcasts. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Xavier. And thank you for pinging me on this. And thanks for chatting for this long. I hope someone jumps somewhere in the middle of the podcast and learns something. But yeah, this is just a fun chat. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's what the RowingCast is all about. So salute.